Hey there guys, so this is the video that helps support the booklet on Recipe Algebra, this guy right here. And it's all about the ratio and proportional work that we do or that we think about with recipes. So we'll start off with some simple stuff, just like doubling a recipe, right? So if you have a serving for 8 people and you need 16 people, then how much more ingredients do you need? And then we'll look at all kinds of situations. So you may have a recipe for, I don't know, say 6 people and you want to make it for 10 people. Or you have a recipe for 10 people and you want to make it for 4 people. So how do you figure out which, how much ingredients to use? And then we'll think about some purchasing. So, here's what you need. Here's what the recipe says. Here's what you need. Here's what you have. How much extra do you have to buy? That kind of stuff. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so let's say I have a recipe for cookies and these are some of the ingredients I need, and we know that it's going to feed 8 people. But if I wanted to figure out how much it would take to go to 16 people, like double it, well then I just double those numbers. Okay, so I'm just asking you how much would I need in order to double the recipe. And so we just double those numbers, right? Times by 2. This will be 400. This will be 120. Eggs, you'd have 8 eggs, and you'd have 100 mils of milk. Okay, you just double those recipes, and that's pretty simple, right? If you just need to do a quick doubling or tripling or cutting in half, then it's simple cutting in half those numbers or whatever it is that you need to do. So what's a little bit more challenging is when you don't have a simple doubling. So let's say I have a recipe for 8 people. But now I want to figure out, well, I only want to feed 12 servings. So how much do I have to increase it by then? So I want to show you the technique for that. So something like this. And there are many ways to do this. And in a simple one-off calculation, I'll show you how to do that, by the proper way, and you won't get it wrong ever. But sometimes you need to make adjustments for a whole recipe, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So let's just figure out, let's say how many grams of flour I would need. And that would require us to use a ratio equation. So let's see if we can remember how to do that. Okay, so the first step that I want to do is I want to create a ratio equation. That means using letters, right? So I've got sugar to people. This part comes from my recipe. And then sugar to people, this comes from what I need. So remember the letters, it doesn't matter the order of the letters. I could have P first and S second, or whatever letters you like to use, as long as the order here is the same as the order there. Right, so S and P and S to P over there. Okay, now let's fill in what we know. Okay, so I know that 60 grams feeds 8 people, right? 60 grams of sugar feeds 8 people. So that's where we get those numbers from. And I want to figure out how many grams of sugar, that's X, feeds 12 people. So how many grams of sugar feeds 12 people? Okay, so that's a ratio equation with the numbers filled in, and now we convert to fractions. Okay, so that's what it looks like. Now, do I have to flip both fractions? Is X on the bottom? Nope, X is on the top, right? So I don't need to flip. I just multiply both sides by 12, right? Cancel out both sides and see what we get. Okay, so I times by 12s, they cancel out over here, right? I times by 12, so 12 times 60 divided by 8. I have to calculate that out on my calculator, and I think that's equal to 90. Okay, so it's equal to 90. So remember, start off with the ratio equation, convert to numbers, put into fractions, and solve. Now there are faster ways to do this, okay? And part of my hope is that you'll start seeing some of those faster ways to do that and applying them for yourselves. But if you ever get stuck, you're not quite sure whether you multiply or divide or what you do, you can always go back to this method. This method will never serve you wrong. It's a little slow, and hopefully you can be fast about things, but yeah, that's the method. So what I want to do now is look at purchasing, okay? Alright, so let's say I'm in the catering business, and I have a recipe for cookies for 8 people, but I want to make for 120 people. So I got to figure out all the changes that I need to make to all of these ingredients and see whether I have enough in my supplies. So that's that requires you to look at your whole recipe and there's a lot of numbers to think about. So instead of going through the ratio equation, which is okay, you want to figure out how many more times is 120 than 80. So let's figure that out. Alright, so 8 times what number is equal to 120? Right, that's really what we're looking at. So let's find x, because that means we're going to times all our other recipes by the same number. Okay, so just divide both sides by 8, I get x is equal to 15, and that means what I need, my number that I need for all of these ingredients up here is going to be 15 times bigger than what I normally have. This recipe is built for 8 people. 8 times 15 is 120, so all these numbers here need to be multiplied by 15. And that makes it a lot easier than simply going through a ratio equation. That can take a while, and it's not easy to do. But this is much easier. You just figure out how much you need to multiply all those pieces by. Alright, so I just go up along here and I multiply all my numbers by 15, because my recipe is only needs to be multiplied by 15 to make up for 120 people up there. So I just multiply all these numbers by 15, and this is what I get down here. 3,000 grams of flour, which is the same as 3 kilograms, 900 grams of sugar, 60 grams of eggs, 750 milliliters of milk. Okay, so now you figure out how much you need in order to make the recipe, and then you got to go look to see what you have. So I'm going to put some numbers down, and we'll see whether we need to go shopping or not. Alright, so I do a little bit of inventory, and I see that I've got 2 kilograms of flour. Do I have enough? Nope, I need 3 kilograms. So when I make my shopping list, I got to know that I got to buy an extra kilogram of flour. Right? I need 900 grams of sugar. I find out that I got a 1 kilogram bag down there in my pantry. So do I need to go shopping? Nope, I've got enough. Remember, a kilogram is 1,000 grams. So I have more. I have an extra 100 grams than I need. Okay, I got 6 dozen eggs. How much is 6 dozen? Do you remember your times tables? What's 6 times 12? Because a dozen is 12. 6 times 12? 72. Right? So I gotta remember this is the same as 72 eggs. Okay, do I have enough eggs in stock? Yeah, I need 60. Right? I need 60 eggs. I've got 72, so I'm in good shape. And milk, well, I need 750 mils of milk. I got 1 liter or 1,000 milliliters, so I have more than enough milk. So the only thing I need to go buy is flour. And that's the last page of your booklet, is sorting these sorts of details out, figuring out how much you need to buy and that sort of stuff. Okay, folks, so that's it. That takes you to the end of the Algebra with Recipes booklet. Alright, take care.